Welcome to Seasonal Stays and Campfire Days. I'm your host Josh, and you're watching Josh's RV Tech Tips. Today's topic is all about typical heaters most people use in their RV or camper, and what we have used and what we are currently using. I will give 3 positives and 3 negatives about each of the heaters. Now, before I go on with the video, I need to interrupt quickly to say hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. Those really help our channel grow and reach more people. Thanks, and enjoy learning about the different types of heaters for a typical RV camper. So the furnace. Usually they're built into the campers when you buy them. A lot of people tend to just use those, especially like the weekend warrior types, but with seasonal camping, we tend to use the furnace a little bit more during the colder weather. So I'm going to have the pros over here. Pros are going to be here. Cons are coming up here. So the 3 pros that I have for the furnace is usually ducted throughout the whole RV or camper. And the nice thing about that is that it will heat up the entire camper. So that's more of a broader area for that to go and heat. It is extremely powerful too. So it needs that power in order to push all that air around the RV. So yeah, the furnace is a pretty good thing. And then with having that ducted throughout everything, a lot of fifth wheels and even travel trailers, they usually have them ducted to go underneath, so like the underbelly and through the storage compartments on the sides of the RV. So in really cold situations, that can prevent or help prevent your water lines and your water tanks and your grays and black tanks from freezing. Now the cons to the furnace. Now this was kind of difficult, a little bit, but the cons is, or my cons for it is, they're usually louder because of that fan, because of how powerful they are and how much they have to push. So usually they're a little bit louder. These things use a ton of propane. We had our camper, it was roughly it was in the teens, and we went through 60 pounds of propane in a weekend. So these things, they really do use a ton of propane, so just be wary of that. And the maintenance on it, no, it's not that difficult to do the maintenance, but there is maintenance involved in it. So those are my pros and those are my cons. So our next way to heat the RV is what a lot of manufacturers are putting out into their campers. That is the electric fireplace. And again, pros on this side, cons on that side. So the pros for an electric fireplace, they're quiet, they can be used as a secondary heat source, and they typically look nicer because you got the ambiance and everything of it looking like a fireplace. The cons though for it can only be used with 110 volt or when you're plugged into shore power, essentially. They are a little, they do require a decent amount of power. It heats up only one space, unless if you have like fans kind of moving the air around the RV, because the fireplace is only in one spot of the RV. So having some fans out can help push some of that heat out, but realistically that's pretty much the only cons to it. Hey, it's Josh from the future. I was editing this video and I realized that I did not say the third con to the electric fireplace, and that would be that it could be very costly to run that as your primary heat source, especially if you are at a campsite where you're paying for your electricity. So you got to keep that in mind as well. So now we're going to move on to the space heater. Now the the electric fireplace and the space heater are about the same thing. One just looks a little bit nicer than the other one because it looks like it has fire in it. But again, pros on this side, cons on this side. The pros for a space heater: it's portable, so you can move it from room to room. It provides a dry heat, and then you can use it as a secondary heat source just in case if something happens to like your furnace or another way that you're heating your RV. So those are my pros. Now the dry heat thing, very important because you don't want a bunch of moisture inside your RV, especially when it's cold, because well, moisture is terrible for RVs to begin with, and then you can see, the moisture, you can see it, especially when like the glass frosts over and everything, when it's really cold out. So not a good sign. But the cons for the space heater, it's bulky, so it's kind of hard to put away or find a spot for it. Again, this can only be used with 110 volts or shore power. It has to be plugged in. And it heats up only a single room. But the nice thing about the space heater, like I put in the pros, is that it's portable. So you can move it from place to place, or like what I said with the fireplace, put some fans out and that will help too. So those are my pros and cons for the space heater. Now the next thing is the Blue Flame heater, or a buddy heater. Now a lot of people tend to use this. It's great for like ice fishing and tent camping and that kind of stuff, but people have brought them into the RVs, and these are really good points with the pros on this side again and the cons on that side. So the Blue Flame heater, or the buddy heater, the pros to it: absolutely no electricity is required. Now some of the buddy heaters do have a fan on it, but that one has a battery in it that you just have to change the batteries out in order to run the fan. But if you just get the basic stuff on it, no electricity is needed at all for it. So great for emergencies, great for secondary heat source. They can be plumbed into the propane line for the RV. If you're skilled enough to run a propane line into your RV, or you put a T on it, you can absolutely tap into your propane tanks that are on the outside and run these heaters inside. But specifically with the buddy heater, they're very portable. Now I wouldn't go and put these next to anything flammable, like any space heater or any heat source, but they are portable. Some of the cons though with it, they are ventless, so you do have to kind of be careful with CO levels. If you don't have proper ventilation for it, then you run the risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. These things do use a lot of fuel. It's just like the furnace, this is more of a portable solution for it. And because it is ventless, it puts a ton of moisture into the RV. So you will have to find a way to get that moisture out. Otherwise, then you're gonna have problems down the road. Literally, you could have problems down the road, but moisture destroys RVs and campers and motorhomes. So the less moisture that you have in it, the better. So those are my pros and cons for the Blue Flame / the buddy heater. So now that we talked about all those other heaters, we're going to talk about the last thing, which I think is the coolest and best way, in my opinion. Now, that is the diesel heater. And they came out, or at least the Chinese knockoff version of it came out about 8 years ago. Or 8 to 10 years ago was when they really started getting popular. I personally had 2 diesel heaters when I built my bus, my Class A RV, or my bus conversion. I put one in the front, one in the back, and it heated up pretty good. So the diesel heaters, pros on this side, cons on that side again. The pros, it is minimal power draw. It does not require 110 volts, which means that you can run this thing off of your battery, which that's a huge thing, especially with boondocking. Why anybody want to go and boondock in the cold is beyond me, but for boondocking, yes, you can run this off of a standard 12 volt battery. These can also act as a furnace, so you can duct it throughout the whole RV and camper. So you don't. So these are more of the ones I put in are a permanent installation, and I ducted it through the whole RV. They do make them where it's just a single unit. You have to put it outside, and you run a ductwork into the camper, and that's how you get your heat. The good thing too is that they are quiet. They're a little bit noisy when they first start up because they ramp up to full power, but then they ramp themselves down and they're super quiet. Now, some of the cons though with them, if like for our situation in the Springdale and the F-150, we got propane and we have gasoline. Now this is another fuel source, so now it's diesel. So now you got to carry 3 different types of fuel with you, so I guess that could be a con. The exhaust of this must be vented outside. These are diesel fumes and diesel exhaust that's coming out of this thing out the bottom. Now it's not that terribly difficult to route it outside, you just got to be careful. So if you don't know what you're doing with it, don't install this yourself. Have somebody that actually understands how to install it. But the last con is that the fuel pump can sometimes be heard ticking depending on where it is installed. And if you know how the diesel heaters actually work, the fuel pump is a little diaphragm pump, and that thing ticks in order to get the fuel to go ahead and get it to the heater. So that's my pros and cons for the diesel heater. So what type of heating do we currently use with our Springdale? Well, we use the built-in furnace, and we also have a space heater that we keep under the dinette as a secondary heat source, or if we just don't want to run the furnace because it's kind of powerful. Once it runs, it gets it really hot in there, but the space heater goes and it's a little bit smaller, so we can kind of manage it a little bit more. An honorable mention that at some point we would like to upgrade to, which I didn't talk about in this video, is a heat pump AC for the main living room. The AC would then be able to heat the whole RV because it is already ducted through the camper. Every type of heating method we have used at some point in our camping career, and I hope that I was able to shine some light on different methods that people use to heat their RVs and campers. There are obviously more ways to keep your RV or camper warm during the winter, but this is a good start to understanding the different methods. If you have made it this far, go ahead and hit the subscribe and like buttons if you already haven't, and we will see you in the next one.